Joining me now is a UFC bantamweight prospect who takes on top contender Bryan Caraway at UFC 222 on March 3rd in Las Vegas. It is Cody Stamann back on the show. Cody, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing really well. Great to chat with you. It's been a while. We last spoke after your debut. Got the job done against Tyrion Ware. Since then, you picked up a win over Tom Duquesnoy, who I know you were obviously confident going into that one, but the odds makers weren't as confident. You were an underdog in that one. Got a split decision back in October at UFC 216. Before we talk about what's coming up, the Bryan Caraway fight, I got to touch on that one. How pleasing was it to shut down a guy who went in there with so much hype? He was almost undefeated. I think almost exactly the same record as you. He was a betting favorite. Did that make it all the more pleasing?
Yeah, I felt like going into that fight, it was like a win-win for me, just because I was fighting a guy that only had one fight in the UFC, just like me, but also I was fighting a guy that, everyone saw as a guy that was going to be the next Conor McGregor. Actually, I heard a few different people refer to him as the next Conor McGregor. So I was like, okay, yeah, this can't happen. Like, I want to be that guy. So, fighting him, obviously, I thought I could get a lot more eyes on my career, and it did exactly that.
Yeah, and just as far as, sort of proving everybody wrong, that must have been really nice too, because, again, you're confident going in, but I didn't see a lot of people picking you in that one. Everybody was sort of on Duquesnoy because he's the next big thing, but you went in there and proved almost everybody wrong.
Yeah, I know. That was kind of a first for me. I really hadn't been an underdog. I think maybe there's been a few fights where people maybe thought I lost, but I, having never been in the UFC before, I'd never seen it so openly. I had so many people talking to me and about me, saying, how Tom Duquesnoy was going to absolutely whoop my ass, and, I basically had no chance. And, I think some that kind of stuff can kind of crush people, but honestly, I welcome it. It's like a challenge for me. I was just a little bit more hungry, to go out there and beat him up, and I did. So, I'm happy with the outcome, and obviously it was a really good experience for me as a fighter.
So with the win, 4 or 5 months, well, I guess 3 or 4 months pass, and now you get the fight against Bryan Caraway. Big step up in competition and just rankings-wise. He's number 7 in the division. Were you at all surprised to get this big of a step up?
No. This is a fight that I was asking for. I was asking for a guy in the top 10. I made it pretty clear to my management and, everyone on my team that these are the kind of fights that I want. I don't want to be a guy that kind of lingers around and fights a bunch of no-name guys and stays in like the top 25 or whatever. I wanted to be a guy that moved up fast because I believe I had that potential. I'm 16-1. I think the only reason that Bryan Caraway is in the top 10 I'm not is because he's been in the UFC since I was in high school. So it's just me finally getting my opportunity. You know what I mean? Like, I went out and I beat a top prospect in Tom Duquesnoy. I showed up on 7 days and won my UFC debut. Like, there's really nothing that can happen in the cage that, or, in the fight game that can really surprise me now. Like, I know Bryan Caraway. I trained in the same gym as him. I trained Extreme Couture for a while. He's the same guy every single fight. I've seen the exact same Bryan Caraway for the last 5 years. I've never been impressed with his style and what he does. The left hook and then a double leg. That's his thing. He's kind of like a chuck and duck, old school mentality. I've fought so many guys like that, and I've trained with so many guys like that. I feel like I'm better than him at every aspect of MMA, and now it's just about me, getting the shot. I want Bryan to stay healthy. I'm praying for him every day to stay healthy because I want to be in the top 10, and he's my golden ticket.
No, I believe the odds aren't out yet, but I believe there's actually a pretty good chance this fight is close odds-wise. He might even open as a slight favorite, just because of your record. You're 2-0 in the UFC. He's been out for a while, things like that. But do you still feel less pressure in this fight just because he's ranked, you're not? He's been around, you are still only 2-0 in the UFC, or is there more pressure because with the Duquesnoy win, especially, you've started to get that recognition. You've started to get a bit noticed, where maybe going into the Ware fight that wasn't necessarily the case. Do you feel less pressure or more pressure, or sort of in between?
I mean, it's kind of all the same for me. I guess you know, I felt a lot of pressure in the Duquesnoy fight because I hadn't really been exposed to that level of like I said, like people hating on me openly. I hadn't really seen that yet, and so much and so frequently. But after that, I feel like there's really nothing that I can't handle as far as like the pressure of a fight. I don't feel a lot of pressure with this one coming up. It's the same thing. My octagon jitters are gone. I'm not I guess nervous, before because it's a UFC fight. I'm not nervous because Bryan's in the top 10. I've been in the same room as Sky on several different occasions. I know he doesn't fucking work hard. I know that I'm better than him everywhere. And I know that, after I beat his ass, I'm going to have a number next to my name.
I find it interesting that in the Duquesnoy fight, you felt pressure, and more pressure maybe than usual, yet you still looked at it as a win-win situation. You had nothing to lose in that fight because he was the favorite. All eyes were on him. Why did you have pressure on yourself, yet still looked at it as a win-win?
I looked at it as a win-win because, I knew going in that I was going to beat him. I knew going in that I would beat him. And so, being that, I'm not fighting a guy that has, 10, 15 UFC fights for my second UFC fight. He only had one. I felt like that was a win. And the fact that he had so much hype, that was also a win. So I was fighting a guy with equal amount of experience as me in the UFC and obviously in the cage, too, because we had the exact same record. And I was also, fighting a guy that everyone saw as the next top guy at bantamweight. So you'll beat that guy, and everyone's like, well, who is this guy? Who's Cody Stamann? Because I kind of flew under the radar. I'm from the Midwest. The Midwest doesn't exactly get the recognition that a guy that fights for Bama or someone out in California and Vegas would get.
Are you excited to be fighting a guy who has a lot of UFC experience? Because the thing is, Tyron Ware in your debut was also making his debut. Tom Duquesnoy, that was also his second UFC fight. And so in that situation, now I don't. This is not what I believe, or I don't think the average fan should believe, or a guy who knows what he's talking about should believe, but I could see some people thinking, oh, well, Duquesnoy was overhyped. The win doesn't actually mean much. But a win over Bryan Caraway, because he's been in there with the best of the best, he's beaten top contenders, Aljamain Sterling, the list goes on. You can't take anything away if you get the job done from against Caraway.
Right. I felt like the fight against Tom definitely legitimized me in a lot of people's eyes. But you go out and beat a guy that's in the top 10. I mean, no one can deny that you're a top tier athlete in the sport. So this is just that shot. I've been waiting for this a long time. I told a lot of different reporters and a lot of different people that I was going to be in the top 10 within a year, and I'm holding up to my end of the bargain. I'm going to go out and beat Bryan Caraway March 3rd. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I know that at the end of the night I'm going to get my hand raised.
Now, some people, after the Tom Duquesnoy win, leading up to this one, people are calling you one of the, a bantamweight prospect to watch in 2018, the bantamweight to watch in 2018 as far as who's going to rise the ranks and do big things in this year. Are you starting to feel that recognition, the recognition you didn't feel before your last fight?
Yeah, I feel like I'm definitely getting a lot more attention, more like positive reinforcement from, the fans of the UFC, because I was just that last one. I was definitely, not a favorite, not a guy that anyone thought was going to go out and win. And the fans that don't know you well and don't really care about you on a personal level, the only thing they see are wins and losses. So if you win, they like you. If you don't, they don't like you. And I'm going to be one of those guys that continues to win, just because I'm meticulous in my preparation. I think I'm the hardest working guy I've ever met, in the sport. I gotta almost, pull myself out of the gym sometimes because, I'm so well prepared, for everything that someone can do. And, this is not going to be any different. I'm going to have the same work ethic and the same, discipline, in this training camp as all of them before.
I find this really interesting. I feel like in the Duquesnoy fight, Duquesnoy wasn't ranked like yourself, but he had that hype, the hype you didn't totally have, and that's something you agreed with going in and after the fight. I feel like in that one you stole his hype, but now here, Caraway doesn't have a ton of hype behind him right now. He's coming off layoff, but now it's sort of the time to steal his ranking. Your second fight, you steal the hype from a guy. Now you're going out to steal a guy's ranking. I find that really interesting.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of exactly how I saw this happening. Honestly, I talked about fighting Bryan Caraway after I fought Tom Duquesnoy. He was going to be the next guy on the list, just because I was familiar with him, and I felt like stylistically he was a way better matchup for me than Tom Duquesnoy was. Tom Duquesnoy was kind of an awkward striker. He had that one-hitter quitter power. If he hit you with a great shot, he's put a lot of guys away, and that's what he's known for. So that's really, that's a really dangerous guy to fight. To where Caraway is more of a boxer wrestler type of guy. And, I'm a Golden Glove state champ, and I'm just as decorated, more decorated of a wrestler than he is. And I've never had a guy take me down and do what Bryan Caraway does with anyone else. And by the time March 3rd comes around, I'm gonna have been shot on a million times. So my reaction to everything is gonna be really, really sharp. So yeah, like I said, that took a guy's hype, and now I'm taking the guy's ranking. I mean, I don't know if they'll give me number 7 ranking that Caraway has, but as long as it's a 1-digit number, I'm gonna be happy.
Have you been told whether or not this fight against Caraway will be on the pay-per-view main card?
Someone was telling me last night that it was going to be on the pay-per-view. There's an article saying that you could watch this fight, on the pay-per-view card, March 3rd. I don't know if that's a solid yes or no. I feel like because he's in the top 10, I definitely see his fight on the pay-per-view card. And I'm looking at the fight card on Tapology. It kind of looked like there was like three fights definitely that I thought were going to be main card worthy. But all the other fights were kind of a toss-up. So, this fight definitely could be on the pay-per-view card. I don't really think that changes anything. That just means all my poor friends are going to have to go find somewhere to watch it.
Yeah, no kidding. Or throw in that $70 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Do you feel like if you do indeed fight on the main card, that sort of just confirms the fact that, hey, the UFC sees something in you. They want to push you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would love to see it. I would love to be in that pay-per-view card. But I'm not going to be bitter if I'm not. This stylistically, this could look like a wrestler versus a wrestler, and like it's going to be a big grappling match. But I mean, that's not what this fight's going to be. I'm not going to shoot on Bryan. I tell you right now, I'm not going to shoot on him. I don't want to shoot on him. I'm reading all these articles about kind of like stylistically what I am, like, Cody's a great wrestler. I don't feel like I get any recognition, as far as my stand-up, and that's really what I feel like I'm best at. If the takedown's there, obviously I'll take it. I'll do what I have to do to win fights, but, I'm a striker. I'm a boxer and a kickboxer. So, I want to really put that on display, and I feel like Caraway's the guy to do it, against. My takedown defense is great, so we're gonna bang this out on our feet.
Are you concerned that Caraway, about the potential that he could get injured, because he has been injured quite a bit in the past few years? I hate to call a guy injury prone, but he gets injured more than most fighters, it seems. And you wrote something on Twitter last week saying, I've been telling everyone I'd be in the top 10 in less than a year. Bryan Caraway, all you have to do is stay healthy until March 3rd. I'll take care of the rest. Is that a concern at all? Is that at all? Has that crossed your mind, that potentially a Caraway injury?
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely thought about it. Like I said, I've been praying for him every day. Just stay healthy, Bryan. If I have to, I'll hire him a masseuse, something, just to make sure that he makes it to that fight date. Because him and I got a date, and he's got something I want. He's got that ranking that I want. And like I said, the only way he can mess this up for me is if he gets hurt.
Yeah, for sure. Where with the win over Caraway, you want the single-digit ranking. But as far as your placement in the division, not necessarily the actual number, but as far as how far you are from a title shot, because he's number 7 in the division. You get the job done. Maybe you don't take number 7. You're probably right around there. Definitely, I would say number 8, number 9, number 10, right around there. Not that many people at that point in front of you. Is it sort of one more fight, 2 more fights before a title shot? What would you be looking at with the win over Caraway?
So I have the fastest I've ever seen someone get to a title at bantamweight was Garbrandt. He did it in 5 fights. I also think I can do this in 5 fights. Strategically, I feel like a fight against Caraway puts me in the top 10. One more win against a top 10 guy, I'll be on like a 12-fight win streak. I don't know how anybody could deny me that shot. It's just about me getting the exposure that I need. The UFC needs to push me. You know what I mean? That means I got to go out and I got to perform, and I got to be a showman and make stuff happen. And I will. I definitely will. I'm like a baby. I'm still like a baby in the UFC. I still have a lot to learn and a lot of growing to do as far as my exposure and everything else. But it'll come. After this fight, I think I'm going to be on a lot more people's radar because it's just stylistically, I feel like this is a fight where I can really do some cool stuff and make a great fight for the fans.
But as far as the timeline goes, I mean, you're a very active fighter. In 2017, you had 4 fights, including the 2 in the UFC. 2016, you had another 4 fights. So over the past 2 years, you've had 8 fights. That's more than I think the average fighter in the UFC or on the cusp of a UFC shot. I know typically you don't get as many fights in the UFC, but could we be looking at another 4 fights? And I mean, as far as the title shot goes, maybe early 2019?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, I don't like to be one of those guys that fights. Obviously you need to take time and you need to recover and work on things. But really, I feel like you learn so much about who you are as an athlete when you get in that cage. Because there's no better measurement. And as an athlete, I don't like to sit on the bench for a long time. I spent the last few months, just kind of working things I felt like I did wrong, just doing a lot of drilling, becoming a better athlete, and I'll be a lot better than I was against Duquesnoy, because you have that base. When you fight, you have like a kind of a baseline to go from. You have an idea of what you need to work on and where you need to go. So I'm definitely going to stay really active in 2018, and a title shot in 2018, 2019. I think so. Yeah, I mean, I definitely believe that I have the abilities to have that belt around my waist. I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe that. I wouldn't even consider the sport. It's such a hard sport. And the lifestyle and things that I want, you got to have that belt around your waist. And I'm looking at it like it's just a matter of time before I do it.
I imagine this 5-month layoff since the Duquesnoy fight is a bit longer than you'd like. It's not a long layoff by any stretch of the imagination. Caraway's coming up on a year and a half or a bit more than that. But is 5 months a bit longer than you'd like?
Yeah. I guess maybe like 3 to 4 months. I feel like if I have a month, where I can just relax, kind of enjoy my life. But man, I love being a fighter. I love this. I think a lot of guys have that pre-fight anxiety, and they're scared of the weight cut, they're scared of all these things. But I really enjoy the process. I enjoy the grind. I look forward to fighting. I'm not one of those guys that kind of beats himself up mentally. And if I'm always in the gym, and I'm always pushing myself. So if I'm gonna be in the gym, I'm gonna be pushing myself. I'd like to know that at the end of 8 weeks, I'm gonna get a big paycheck. So, yeah, I mean, staying busy is the best way to do that. You don't get paid if you're not fighting.
One of my colleagues over at BloodyElbow.com is doing a feature piece on Spartan Warriors. That's what he told me, and he's including quotes from fighters who use Spartan as their nickname. You, of course, are one of them. He wanted me to ask you just sort of why your nickname is Spartan and where that came from.
So my nickname is the Spartan because I grew up in Sparta, Michigan. We were the Spartans growing up, so I've been a Spartan since I was a little kid playing, rocket football. And just the mentality that they have, it's kind of it's a do or die mentality. Come home with your shield or on it. And I feel like, as a fighter and as an athlete, you're gonna have to have that mentality. You got to go put it all on the line every single time, every single fight, and it's either win or die. And I look at it like that. But also like a Spartan, I keep it pretty light. I'm sarcastic. I joke around. I don't get too serious before a fight. And I think that's the best way to be. Just knowing that my job is 100% to go and beat the crap out of a guy in a cage, and that's it. It's not complicated. It's simple. I just go out there and I put it all on the line, and no matter what, I have to win.
Very cool. And I was looking at your Twitter, and 2 fights into your UFC career, you're still not verified. I know you don't do much on Twitter. Your bio is I do UFC, but I rarely do Twitter. So I would imagine you don't really care. But what's up with that? Usually the UFC social media people sort of jump on that real quick.
Yeah, I got verified on Instagram. I didn't get verified on Twitter. I guess if I send an email, and I will now that you said that, just because I feel like I should be verified. Because that kind of legitimizes that you're cool, right? And I mean, I don't know. I don't really know how Twitter works, but I probably still won't use it after I have a check mark. But yeah, I'll probably shoot someone an email and be like, hey, I got 2 fights. I want give me my check mark.
Yeah, no kidding. Thank me later.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's deserved. But I mean, usually I see fighters get signed and they have it within a week or so from getting a sign. So I found that bizarre. But maybe they saw your bio and said, "Hey, this guy doesn't."
Yeah, right.
Well, Cody, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I really appreciate the time. My last question for you: UFC 222, March 3rd in Las Vegas, Nevada. You're taking on number 7 bantamweight in the UFC, Bryan Kid Lightning Caraway. How do you get the job done?
Any way I have to. I just know at the end of the night I'm getting my hand raised. I'm going to walk out there and cash a big check.
Awesome, Cody. Thank you again for the time. Really do appreciate it. Before I let you go, remind my audience where they can find you on social media, and if there's anybody you'd like to thank or give a shout-out to, the floor is yours.
So all my social media is the same. It's just Cody Stamann, Stamann, sites for my last name. Really appreciate you taking the time. I got to thank everyone at the gym, Michigan Top Team. Look for big things out of me in 2018.